Also, I did mention that I was going to replace the timing or the valve cover gasket here because I'm getting a leak somewhere, and I figured it's pretty easy to replace this one. It was like $27 for the replacement part, which comes with all the O-rings. And I do see a little oil up in there. Not sure if that's coming through in the camera or not. Like my light's blocking, but I do see oil sitting in there. So again, it's easy to replace while I'm here, and the tool I do have to keep this engine from rotating over, as far as moving out of time while I'm replacing the time belt, does have a bar that goes across here. I'll show you in a little bit. So what I did off camera is I just pulled off this Ecotech cover here, which is pretty simple. It's just spring-loaded tabs, so just pry it up easy. The flat screwdriver, and then there's a connection over on this side right here. So pull this orange lock back, push down this black lever, and just pull this off, and that'll take out the coil pack. So then we'll take, looks like a T something to put in here. We'll pull off the coils. All right, these are two T40s. That was really, really loose. This side's a little tighter. I don't want to torque down these things too hard. They're all full of electronics and potted wires, but the left side seemed appropriate. The right side seemed a bit loose. And this whole assembly should pick straight up, I'm assuming. There we go. Okay, there's your, see right here, the oil sitting right there. So oil's definitely leaking down there quite a bit. So I would say that amount of oil dripping out of there, definitely valve cover gasket is needed. Wow. And one of the boots stuck down in here off this one here. I'll pull that boot out. I definitely want to get you a shot down in there, but you can see the oil dripping off here, right? So, wow. Valve cover gasket was shot. See if I can get you an image down in here. That pretty much is full of oil down there. So look down, spark plugs, full of oil. So, replacing this valve cover gasket was definitely needed. Hopefully that was the cause of the oil leak. I know I was smelling oil when I came to a stop when it was running, so that may be why it's just gassing off there. And we'll get that sorted out today. So these are all E10s that hold this valve cover gasket on. We're going to have to pull some wires off here too. They're kind of attached to this valve cover gasket. So I don't know if I'll bother videotaping this or just doing it off camera. You got to believe me that I did it right. I'm not sure exactly how this stuff all comes off, but I'll talk you through it after I figure it out off camera. Okay, yes, these wires that hold inside, they just slide up and over this plastic clips here, and there's one back here also. Should just slide straight up. Hopefully nothing breaks, but with my luck today, I'm sure something will. Actually, I do see a little of something. What was that thought? All right, the trick with these ones in the back here, we're pushing these tabs. Maybe you'll see from that angle. There's 3 holes above each of these brackets here where it clips on. Push those tabs to the back towards the driver's compartment of the vehicle and then pop it up. That was the trick to get those wire loom out. So again, all E10s here. So I'm not going to do this on camera. If I do, it'll be super set up. But all these bolts should be captive in the valve cover gasket. Anyway, I'll do this off camera. All right, so all those E10 bolts are loosened up. We'll see if this thing will just pop off, or what it's going to take to pry it off. Oh boy. Huh. Maybe a little prying is what's needed. Just prying it up a little bit. Time that O-ring's pretty well stuck on there. So. Okay, I'm trying not to remove any more of these wires, so we'll see how this goes. feeding this thing out. Okay. So hopefully this rubber boot comes out. This one, okay, yep. Look at that oil that's inside that spark plug hole, huh? This will go on the end of the coil pack. Wow. So we can get the camera over here and get you a good view of what we're looking at here. I'm not sure you can see that, let me see. This right here, all oil inside there. This one over here, oil too. So again, it's leaking around these spots right here through the valve cover O-rings and right down into there. So, wow. I don't know if I'll be able to sump those out or dry them out with some oil rags or something. They cook off by themselves after a little while, but I prefer to start with a clean slate for this particular vehicle. I'm not sure I'm going to be driving this to work tomorrow. That was my hope, but I'm finding a few parts that I may need that I don't have. Okay, part of the kit that I bought for this time belt came with this tool right here, which locks in to the camshafts to make sure they're locked in and don't move. There's also a locker that goes into between the teeth over there, but regardless, I just want to make sure this thing fits in. I had to wiggle it back and forth a little bit to get that part to lock in. Now I know that, you know, the cams can't come out of sync when I replace everything. So there's step one, and I'll show you the tool installed on the other side in a little bit. While we're here though, I'll take, let's see, this shop towel, jam down in the spark plug with a screwdriver and start sopping up some of this oil. Get another one for the second hole. Essentially number 2 and 3 cylinders, the ones that had the biggest leaks. Yep, a little bit of oil there. Yep. Yep. All right, one more towel each. We should have that pretty well dried out. Again, this would have burned off eventually just by a run. Since once you stop the oil leak going in, it should stop filling and, you know, you're good to go. But start with less oil in there to burn off is always a good thing. There's some chunky oil up in here, but alrighty. Well, I think that alone, do some cleanup around here before we put the new valve cover back on. But we'll do that after we're kind of done with the timing belt on the other side. So, okay, where's the oil cover or valve cover gasket? So there's this oil filler cap right here that does not come with the new valve cover gasket. So you have to pull this off. Now, the way I looked at it, it's like interrupted thread at the bottom. Essentially has to push down and then turn to the right. Try and loosen this thing right now. See this tab right here up top on this filler neck is hitting the valve cover right there. So what you have to do, and I already did off camera, there's little plastic tabs. There's one on each side right there, and on this side right there. To pry this up and then pull this piece with the little notch on it to keep it from loosening up. So you prop that up and then slide it up once and then over a second lip right there. Once that's pulled up, you can then rotate this neck to the left a little bit and then it'll pull right out. So again, there's little plastic tabs right here, one on each side, 180 degrees apart. You have to pry up and then pull up this little captive locking collar up here and then rotate it out. And then when you put it back in, just slide that locking collar back in after you get it past this point here. So I didn't see a video about that online, I just saw it right now, so hopefully it helps somebody out with valve cover replacement on a 1.8 Chevy Cruze. Now back to the car. Okay, well, I've drained as much oil out of the inside from up top as I could with rags and whatnot. I eventually just pulled the spark plugs up and out. Oil went flowing down to the cylinder, whatever, it'll burn some oil, it'll smoke a little bit when it starts. But for now, let's put this valve cover gasket back on. See if we can get this thing sorted out on easy. It's kind of a pain neck with the wires and everything in the way over on this side, but see if we can snake this thing back in without damaging the valve cover gasket. While we do this, it's not a very convenient place to put it in. Guys, wires are flipping around it. PCV valve on the right place. Okay, there are a couple spots that actually have like stations that sit face down to kind of help align the valve cover gasket. This one up top here, right here in this spot, top forward, front and back, the little spots with actually parts that will help align the valve cover gasket. And after that, these screws should just all be aligned themselves. Okay. Go ahead and just bring these down finger tight, make sure everything is aligned. And hopefully the oil will not leak inside the spark plug holes anymore. I don't think it was designed to do that. So far these are going in aligned very well. The torque spec is 72 inch-pounds. I don't have a torque wrench that goes that low, so I'm going to have to go by feel. Good news was this whole valve cover and gasket already installed was like $27. Don't know if it's that much worse than the original OEM one, but we'll give it a go. And not torquing them yet, just getting them finger tight. Okay. Now, turn on my calibrated torque wrench, and we'll go from the middle to the outside, approximately 6 foot-pounds each screw. Click. 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 Actually, I might have a torque wrench for a section. Let me check. Got my torque wrench for my gun sight stuff, so we'll go. Huh, a little higher than I thought it was going to be. A little higher, sorry. Don't want to over tighten these, that's why I'm a little about that. Now let me just double check the torque spec because I don't want to break this thing. I don't want to have a leaking valve cover again. I thought it said 76. Let me check that again. May just take a lot of turns to get there to crush that O-ring. Okay. Alright, started to get there. That's good. I was a little worried that we were over tightening these, but once they bottom out, it seems to go pretty quick. That one's bottom. Okay. So now it's getting very loose, so there we go. Starting to feel like I'm getting it. Okay, just double check the last one and first one I did. Yep. Okay. We're good. Okay, we'll install the coil pack back over. Nice and seated down. Remember, the right side was really loose last time. The left side seems appropriate. Okay. I'll start routing the wires back in, replugging the PCV valve hose. Just back here, you can't see that from there, but push it slowly on. It's on. Slide down these wires right here. Tolerance is a little off here. This thing doesn't want to hook on the end one very well, but it'll go on well. Okay, that's there. Wires here kind of get just fed back in, like so. Mass airflow wire over there. Okay, now there wasn't a hose one. No, it's not a hose, just a. Okay. I think that's good. I still have concern about this. Sorry, put this, didn't finish here. Put this plug back on. Wouldn't fire very well without that. Push that tab in. Hook on this last wire set here. Install the oil filler cap. Boom. And then our Chevy Ecotech, which is probably actually an Opal. Seems like European. Boom. Look at that baby. This part of the engine almost looks like it's done.